help women save lives and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. When she just came out, she told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. And we are approaching June, and that means applications to lead a 40 Days for Life campaign are about to open. And for those of you who are thinking about extending your campaign and doing a 40 Days for Life 365. Those applications are open as well once we get into June. So definitely look for that. We're also approaching what a wonderful weekend and Memorial Day weekend, which will be coming up. A great time to remember those who sacrificed everything for our country. So joining me on this pre-summer, but not yet summer, podcast is somebody who always is celebrating summer every day of his life, and that is Mr. Steve Carlin from Madison.
Every day of my life, baby, it's here.
Your face just makes me think of summer.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Clark.
First summer with the beard.
First summer with the beard.
It's going to be like a little scratchy, like a hot day. I don't know. Y'all get up to 90, right?
Yeah, we'll get into 90. Some summers we hit 100.
Yeah, you had mentioned that, and so you kind of start rubbing your beard and yeah.
Milk was a bad choice.
Milk was a bad choice. It's definitely. And Heather Gardner is also here.
No beard. Not today.
Yet. All things are possible.
That's right.
You love Memorial Day weekend.
I do.
Your grandfather was in Normandy.
Yes.
I just love it because it meant school was out and we celebrate America, and my grandparents had like a little lake house, so we would always go out there, and it just like was a blast for shooting off fireworks illegally that weekend. So it's just like great memories. But I vividly remember seeing Saving Private Ryan in the theater the Memorial weekend that it came out. On a less serious note, but also a monumental moment in my Memorial Day life, I saw Top Gun 2 the Friday that it came out of Memorial Day weekend.
All good things.
Unbelievable. And I don't think that we have announced on the podcast, but the information you get with this podcast is just, it's unbelievable how we continue to pour ourselves out for the listeners. But
it's really the only news source anyone needs.
I mean, you can't trust anything anymore. And once you download this, what will you not know? You know, you just got to come at it from that angle. Top Gun 3 is going to happen. That's official. As is, since I guess he's just like, how much money can I make before I'm 80 years old or 70 years old? Days of Thunder 2.
Oh, yeah?
Cole Trickle is back, baby. One of the greatest redneck character names in the history of movies. Did you see Days of Thunder?
No.
Days of Thunder is a not as good but NASCAR version of Top Gun.
Yeah. I remember seeing the previews on it, but I never went to go see it.
Did you see Days of Thunder?
I did not. No.
Well,
Saw Talladega
shocker.
Nights.
Yeah.
well, what's funny is I kind of thought, I'm surprised they didn't make a sequel to Days of Thunder because Talladega Nights really educated a lot of people on NASCAR. If you're not first, you're last. I mean, nobody would know what that meant.
There was no socially acceptable way for me to point this out to you last night, but we were sitting outside just kind of enjoying a lovely Texas evening.
Yes.
And
cool.
A guy walked past with a shirt that just had Ricky Bobby's face, and it said, if you're not first, you're last. But the face was like, it took up the whole torso.
I totally missed that. I know we were engaged in deep philosophical conversation. You should have broken that up so that I could see that T-shirt.
It would have been awkward because the guy was coming.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, look at that guy.
Look at that guy. Yeah, that's always hard. I saw that movie at the recommendation of a very funny priest that I know. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen ever. And then I watched it a decade later, and I was like, I think I have to watch this every day. This is the greatest thing ever. So there's few times where I'm just like out of control laughing, but I didn't see the cougar thing coming. And then he's like, you're going to learn to overcome your fear. And there's nothing scarier than driving a car with a cougar in the backseat. Like, and then it attacks him, of course. So, yeah.
It's a brilliant segue for Heather to go from Top Gun to Ricky Bobby, because that's where one of our favorite movie lines is, "Save me, Tom Cruise."
Save me, Tom Cruise. Yeah, when he gets out of the car. I think I told you last September I was visiting my daughter in college, and we just had nothing to do, and we randomly saw a raceway. It was in Kansas City, and it was a NASCAR playoff. I have never been to a NASCAR event. I've heard like it's like hockey. You got to go, and it's so great. And we went, and it was the greatest sporting event I've ever been to by far. There's nothing like it. It's unbelievable.
The greatest by far. You've been to Cowboys games. You love the Cowboys. You've been to Texas A&M. You love Texas A&M.
I've been to the ALCS when the Astros played Boston and won.
And you prefer the NASCAR? I'm not knocking it. I'm just surprised.
I think I told you this over the phone, and this was like the next day, but it's like knee jerk. Like, that was the greatest thing ever, man.
Right.
No, I can't. Like, I would be the most excited to take my kids to a NASCAR. It's the noise, the smells, it's loud, it's awesome. The stadium shakes, and it's not because like fans are swaying. It's just awesome. It's okay. I mean, they're kind of like, their engines are on, but they're just kind of sitting there, and you kind of get the impression like, this is going to be really loud. I mean, I paid $40, and I was like 10 rows up. Like it was like the day of. Free parking. Basically, they take what everyone hates about going to any kind of professional sporting event, and they throw it out. You bring your own food. We don't know any of this because we're just totally, rookies. We didn't have earplugs. We purchased those.
Yeah.
So it's a playoff. So all the famous drivers are there, and it was cool. They had a mom who like runs a home for children with Down syndrome. Do the driver start your engine because they always have some, I guess, unique person. So that was kind of neat. And when they say that, and then they start their engines, it's just unbelievable. They did one lap. They come around. Maybe I'll post. I don't know if I can post the video on the page because I may have said a word when they drove by. Because I was like gonna film. Oh, it's the first lap because they take off. So they're coming. The ground is shaking. I drop my iPhone as they're going past us, and I yell, "Oh, something." And because like the end of the world's happening, I was totally unprepared for like the physical part of it. And they go around the corner, and there's like this massive wreck in the first lap, and I was like, "This is awesome! This is better than any like kickoff return or a home run like leadoff in a game. It's totally unbelievable." It's also just in the category of we could go out in the yard behind our building, and like you could go run a post, and I could throw it to you. We're just never getting in a car and going 200 miles an hour. It's just never going to happen.
Have you ever been in any sort of a race?
No. Like from the cops?
No. Well, I mean that too. If
Drag
that's
racing?
not what I'm asking, like if the answer is yes, we're going to shift and go to that.
Like a go-kart race?
Yeah.
Like when I was like in the second grade at my birthday party.
So 10 years ago, it was Father's Day, and a friend called me up and he said, "Hey, we're having a go-kart race. Do you want to be in? It's something to do with the diocese and seminarians." Like, yes.
This is very Wisconsin.
Go-karts sound cool.
Should know.
So I thought go-karts are like you would ride when you're in second grade, right? But these are go-karts that are going 60 miles an hour, and there were 2 NASCAR guys in the go-kart race.
These are like ATVs, almost.
And this was a terrifying thing because it's all open, and like every corner I'm spinning out like it's Mario Kart, and then like the NASCAR guys are 50. Like if they nick me, I'm toast. So it was a wild experience. I can't say I enjoyed it.
Oh.
It was way harder than, like, you're hearing go-karts and The fact that you're not openly laughing at me makes me think interiorly you're laughing at me harder than if you were openly laughing at me. But it was really something.
I don't think that's like NASCAR, but probably move on from that. But, it was the NASCAR race was 400 miles. So my thing of like before I went to NASCAR and after I went to NASCAR was I'm gonna get bored with it. Mm-hmm. Because
like the first 2 laps are cool, and then how much longer?
And it's not like that. I think I had actually adjusted to what was going on like the 68th lap. Like it just took me that much like figure out why they do certain things, and just they're going 200 miles an hour, so it's not boring in that you can follow your car or a couple of cars. They're just like inches from each other. It's insane. They go around and they're back in like 30 seconds. And so there's no downtime. And it was cool. We made it like 40 or 50 laps without earplugs. But I was like, we're not going to make it 4 hours, doing this. It's so funny because everybody around us like starts putting on like the headsets to cover their ears. And I like hit Bridget and I'm like, I think we're in trouble. She's like, yeah, we're like the only ones that don't have it. So anyways, it was so fun. She loved it. It was a great father-daughter event. It was just beautiful. It was a lot of fun. I'll end with this. The opening prayer, Steve.
All right.
Gold. Absolutely gold. God bless the United States of America. God bless Donald Trump. And let's honor God today for things that he loves, like life and NASCAR. And then they go right into the start your engines. So like, God loves NASCAR, and then they start their engines. And I was like, well, I think that sums up who's going to win the election in a couple of months.
Wow.
We need to do some sort of documentary on us 3 bringing Mr. Robert Calhoun from England to a NASCAR event.
Ooh.
Well, there's a lot of English things about it. There's buckets of beer everywhere. It's probably like their soccer games. They have food. They have all those things. Very polite crowd.
Okay.
And I guess it's hard. And you have people and they've got their racing shirts on. And I don't know how you just have your favorite driver or whatever. But you're risking it if you go to an NFL game or a
right.
Major League Baseball game or whatever with whatever.
Get beaten into a coma.
There's no fights at this thing. Everybody's polite. It was all good. So I did see one guy give a driver, I don't know why, I guess he didn't like the driver. He gave him the double middle finger. And
Ooh.
It was like way over, and I cracked up, and so did Bridget. And I just thought it was like after like 122 laps, I guess he did something. And so he gave him the double middle finger. And I'm thinking like, let's say you're sitting somewhat like near the dugout or whatever, maybe a player warming up in baseball, okay? Like they can maybe see that, or you can definitely heckle, right? In basketball or baseball. If you're going 200 miles an hour around the corner, you like, hey, that guy gave me the double middle finger. I'm offended, So I don't know if it has the same impact, but the fact that he made the effort, I thought, he's got his heart's in it.
Points for trying.
Yeah, points for trying. So, anyways, I don't know how we got off on that, but I don't think I'd ever. Did I even tell you that we did that?
No,
randomly?
this is the first time I've heard this story.
Oh, it was like we just had a free day. It was a Sunday.
That's awesome.
It was so. It's like one of those things where if we'd have planned it, it wouldn't have been as fun.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think there's a shopping center over here because we went to Mass that morning. We're going to eat lunch, and I just see this massive stadium with like cars going in. I'm like, I think there's a race. Like, would you want to go? She's like, yes. And I was like, we're about to learn how this works together. And so you like download the app, you buy this. I was like, we're on row 10, but it's like $36 for the ticket. Because I just thought, what is this, like $125 a ticket? Like it's a playoff. You park in a field.
Yes.
It's
naturally.
It fulfills all stereotypes. It's just
in the best possible way.
In the best possible way. And remember, this was September. And remember, Trump had a bad September and then probably the best October in the history of politics. And so I was just kind of frustrated with how his campaign was going. I went to that NASCAR race. The confidence level of his reelection started to really skyrocket.
Like a revival.
I think it was the prayer. Once the prayer was happening, and we went right into it. So
You mentioned how did we get off on this? Just if we want to trace back the lineage, it was Memorial Day's coming up, Normandy, Top Gun, Tropic Thunder, Talladega Nights. NASCAR is awesome.
It's
and
all my fault.
the frustrating thing is where I'm going. I'm going to take my boys would absolutely love it. But it's just hard. It's not like you just drive down to the Astros game and there's a billion games. Like there's not that many races. Like so, you really have to kind of plan it out. But anyways, highly recommended. Cool. Highly recommended. Yeah.
What's going on the list?
God bless America and God bless NASCAR. Okay, with that, the question that abortion supporters, did I even say the topic?
I don't think so.
The question abortion supporters fear the most. We're going to have a little what to say when fun because it continues to get just a little odd, I think, and awkward. We're used to some of the classics. Reproductive justice. That's probably my favorite. Pregnancy interruption. This is a thing.
It sounds like a pause. Like you're not pregnant anymore, but in a little bit you will be again.
The pregnancy was interrupted. Yeah, it's like the electricity went out in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, just choice. So we like discussing abortion because we feel we have an obligation to say something. It's the reason that we wrote What to Say When, because a lot of people are like, I want to say something, but I want to say the right thing, and I want to defend life, and I don't want to, make the situation worse. The whole what is a woman thing, Matt Walsh just decided, I'm going to ask a question. It was a brilliant approach to it. Because you could easily be like, well, what's trans? And the trans community now they're in the driver's seat and they're going to define
Gender is a construct.
Yeah, and there's 72 answers to like what is trans, but he doesn't. He asks what a woman is, and it immediately cut through everything, and that's why in What to Say When and in conversation, and I've done it in a few media interviews. What is an abortion goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Because most people have actually never really thought about that question.
Yes. Yeah, I think my favorite part of the Matt Walsh film was where he's marching along with the Women's March, and he's got the sign that says, what is a woman? And they're like, sir, if you are not a woman, please kindly leave. And I don't think I would be smart enough for this to be in my top 10 responses, but he just said, what is that?
What is that? Like, oh, it's great.
We're pro-choice. What is that?
So there's some sophisticated interneting that was taking place for the research of this podcast. Dictionary.com says this is an abortion. The removal of an embryo or fetus from the uterus in order to end a pregnancy.
That can't be it.
I was actually recently talking about this very thing with a youth group in Houston, and the point we're making here is exactly what I wanted to explain to them, that this is not simply the ending of an abortion, because we'd all be ending of a pregnancy in terms of the definition of abortion, because we would all be abortion survivors then. All of our mothers would have had abortions because labor and delivery ends a pregnancy.
Your birthday ends the pregnancy.
It's a little more to that. And you see this, I'm sure a lot of our YouTube people are even looking at this now. If you're looking at the YouTube podcasts of this or publishing of this, it says that disclaimer at the bottom of the video, like right
every video
underneath
we've ever put out.
Yeah, like abortion is a da 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 da, and it's almost the exact same things. Like, yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah.
than that.
And to YouTube's credit, they've never banned us, but we've never had anything just taken down. Google recently took us off Google Maps. I don't think y'all heard about that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Our legal team is working on
We
it.
took the HQ off of it?
We were annihilated from Google Maps.
Yeah.
And not like an upgrade like Gulf of America.
Yeah.
That's bad because my brother's wiffle ball park is on Google Maps. The standards are not high, is what I'm saying.
Are you not worried about the wiffle ball park? Because if they took out 40 Days for Life, who's next?
It could be
So
Oh
Probably by the time this
God.
podcast airs, we'll be reinstated. But I go back and forth. Maybe I'm too cynical because I've had to pull up our office and send it to people who are driving here, and I'll be like, "Are we even listed on Google Maps? Do they actually allow that?" And so I'm like, "Oh yeah, look, 40 Bags for Life." And so I know the IT guys manage that, but part of me is like, "We were on there in the first place? That's a miracle." Okay, the National Library of Medicine. An abortion is a medical procedure that ends an undesired pregnancy by removing the fetus and placenta from the woman's uterus. So now we're getting into the will.
Yeah.
So
And that's not even accurate.
no,
Some of these pregnancies are wanted, but
right, but also it's an undesired pregnancy.
maybe it's undesired because a baby has a deformality or some sort of poor prognosis.
Okay, there's many reasons, but
So
they
wanted the
mention
baby,
that.
but you didn't want the not perfect baby. So that's undesired.
But we don't say that chemotherapy removes undesired tumors. Everybody's like, I don't, because a lot of pregnancies are desired.
Yeah.
No tumors are desired.
I would think not.
Okay.
But you never know. Someone may comment, Sean, that
basic
you're wrong.
We're still here at this point where they're still using euphemisms I know this is the sophisticated interneting, I believe you said.
Dictionary.com. But the last one was the National Library of Medicine.
That's the one that is on the disclaimer on YouTube, is
Right.
National Library of Medicine definition.
I kind of wanted to show just it's still, if there's one place that you should not have a euphemism, it would be a dictionary.
I know.
Good point.
To say it ends a pregnancy. Again, a lot of things do. Like, okay, here, the National Library of Medicine one, a medical procedure that ends an undesired pregnancy. I mean, so that could be a C-section, right? There's women who have undesired pregnancies but still go to term, so they could have
Well, the thing is that the humanity obviously is removed.
right. And
A pregnancy is just like this thing out there that sometimes happens, and it can get interrupted or it can get ended or whatever. And because you're not going to be like it's a chamber that removes undesired Jews.
right.
It's like what? And so the humanity has to be. Gas chambers are often used to advance, mankind in certain ways, and you'd have to remove the humanity of it. Okay,
The next one is a big eye roll. I mean,
I'm excited about it.
ridiculous.
It's closer, at least.
It's good. All this is good. The listeners need to know this is good. We thrive in crazy land. Okay, Merriam-Webster, here we go. The termination of a pregnancy after, accompanied by, resulting in, or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus.
Accompanied by the death.
Accompanied by the death of the embryo or the fetus.
That's what the first two definitions miss, though, right? The word death.
Death
That's
is
an
a big
essential component to abortion.
But this now,
one. Webster's not messing around.
this now says this is a whole big controversy ongoing in the medical community and with countless women and parents in hospitals when they hear that they had an abortion or a spontaneous abortion, because they are lumping all of this miscarriage in with abortions. And that's what miscarriage would fall under this definition, which is disgusting.
Well, they also have termination to start it off. I'll read the whole thing again for the listener. The termination of a pregnancy after, accompanied by, resulting in, or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus. So they have termination at the beginning and death at the end. Those usually are the same thing. This is where because there's not 62 abortions in the world every year, because there's 72 million, they have to kind of get in a room and be like, how do we say this? Because this is really common. But we can't say it. Yeah, but we're Webster. We define things. And they came up with this, which is not a good definition, but it's better than the first two.
Yeah, the word that's continuously missing in all of these is the word kill.
Kill, right. Intentionally kill.
The intentional, yeah. Or, if you want to get greedy, an elective surgery. Yeah, that would be in the Sean Kearney-Webster one. That they don't allow that. Okay.
But this is where it gets a little bit silly here because abortion is controversial. Why? Not because it ends a pregnancy. As we've said, there's many ways to end a pregnancy, and most of them are good. It's controversial because it results in the death of the embryo or fetus, and intentionally so.
And we're going to get to how this plays out in conversation in a minute, but we're just given the definitions. But the definition, did you already read that? Abortion is the intentional killing of an unborn human being at any stage of development prior to birth. That's the definition. Did you just make that up, or is that some...
The beard.
Did you
From the beard. I saw the reference, beard. Yeah. April of 2025. Steve's beard is just producing wisdom for the whole world. Abortion is unacceptable because it is never okay to kill an innocent human being.
Well, what about every time you wash your hands? There's some
Skin cells.
They're alive, man. You're killing human life every time you wash your hands. I had someone say that to me in a debate one time.
Me too. That's a common
Like
one.
an organized one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did people laugh?
No, they're...
Oh,
how,
no.
How do you respond to that pro-life guy?
Oh no, you must have not had any pro-lifers or in the middle.
Yeah, and I-
people in there.
50-50.
Yeah, well, I've always said, go ask a woman who had an abortion and regrets it, or had an abortion and doesn't regret it, if it was just like washing her hands.
You haven't seen all the signs that say, I regret washing my hands?
But I'm saying,
Post-hand washing
I'm
healing.
saying even the pro-abortion feminists should be offended at that. Because
Yes.
abortion is like their sacrament, and
Yeah.
weird guy who says caffeine is just like crack, it's the same guy, is you're washing your hands, bro. He's now downplaying their sacrament. Of like, I had the courage and I laid on the table and I had the abortion and it was my right, But they wouldn't just be like, it's like washing your hands. You can also just say that that's true. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when somebody
Debate over.
when someone goes to a conference and they stand up there and they say, I had an abortion when I was 16, and the crowd applauds, for the courage of the woman to do that, it's the same as when she says, I used Germ-X this morning.
You got me.
You got me. I like that guy, though, because he's just a clown, and clowns are fun. He's a total clown. He's an idiot. Everybody knows it. Something's wrong. Very wrong.
Argue with that.
Okay. And then now the miscarriages or the spontaneous abortions.
Yeah, because it's helpful to say what abortion is not here, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff getting lumped in.
Yeah, it's not a miscarriage.
It's not miscarriage care. They the DNE procedure is the same, or the DNC procedure, or DNE procedure, whichever one you want to cover. That's the same thing. Well, there's one key difference.
Yeah.
And the difference is what defines abortion, which they kind of got into in that one definition, which is your desire. Your will defines the abortion, because most people don't want to pay a doctor to kill their baby. So, but if you do, then that's an abortion. So the intention is, which is what we have said, this is the eugenics part, that our will gives you your dignity. Great for you if we want you, not so good if we don't. And that has never worked. It's always led to...
It's kind of like saying the gravedigger at the local cemetery is the same as Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. They're both burying people, man.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that movie reference. I'm shocked that you know who Buffalo Bill is. Have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
Twice.
Wow. Did you really like it?
I did.
That's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, it's messed up.
You haven't seen a lot of movies, and then you drop Silence of the Lambs and Buffalo Bill. I did a double feature of that and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Oh, my word. But that's actually a really good analogy, too, of just the guy at the gravedigger is the same as...
Both burying people, same procedure.
Yeah.
DNC.
Joe Pesci out of Goodfellas. I'll dig the hole. And it's like, yeah, that's not the same as the guy at the graveyard who's like, actually providing a service, to the families. Okay. This whole thing, we'll go through it really quickly with the fetus. Is it a fetal human? Is it a human fetus? They just remove the humanity from the embryo. They remove it from the fetus. They remove it from the teenager. It's just, you can't do that. It's impossible. It's not a fetal dolphin.
And speaking of that, and clowns, my favorite is when you every now and then go to the March for Life and you see the pro-abortion guy on the side holding up a sign, with a picture of a fetus, and it says, "This is not a fetus," and he's wanting people to come up, "Yes, it is," or "This is not a human."
Yeah.
And "Yes, it is. That is a human." It's like, no, it's a dolphin fetus, or it's it's a baby, it's a bear fetus. It's like, oh gosh, he got us.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where I think the entire abortion debate really hinges on what is the fetus, because if it is a human being, you cannot kill it. If it is a human being, if it's not a human being, nobody cares. If it is a human being, you cannot kill it. And this is where some of these crazy land arguments really become distractions, because they're like, well, yeah, but what about the abortion supporters who say, yeah, it is a human being, but it's a parasite, so it's trespassing in the womb, and forcing a woman to give birth is the same as slavery. There are people who say that, but we're talking like 20% of the population. I think that 80% of Americans, maybe 80% of people in the world, if they were convicted that the fetus is a human being, they would oppose abortion.
The what is abortion question is such a confidence builder, I think, for people who have not discussed abortion. Because number one, you don't have to talk a lot. And I think one of the struggles of people who find themselves in a conversation is that they themselves are not confrontational people, or like, I'm not a confrontational person, but I can be if I want to be. Yeah, I don't want to be, but like if it's needed, if I get guys saying, washing your hands, I don't mind that. But some people just don't want any of that, but they get into conversations about abortion. And what is an abortion allows you to really not have to talk a lot and allow them to talk, because it just goes down this path. What an abortion is like, it's a constitutional right. Okay, I understand that, and a lot of people think it's legal, but like what is it? Like,
how do you do it?
How do you do it? And that's like, it's a medical procedure, and women should have rights to it. No, I know, but what's it? Why does somebody need one?
Well, I don't know how to explain every medical surgery. Doesn't mean I don't know.
Yeah, and
That's funny though, because they're the same people who are coming, well, what would you do in an ectopic pregnancy?
Yeah, yeah. So you just end up going down that path, and either they define it themselves, or you sort of scoot them along and help them define it. But it has to end the life of the baby. And how does it do that?
That's
how do you
successful?
Yeah, that's
part
the
of it.
success. The abortion, the baby has to die for it to be successful. And I think that that's a really good, because where this ends up is, look, people die every day. And that is typically, for somebody who's going to just go down that path, it's like, yeah, but the woman, you can't force people to have kids. So the abortion is going to remove the kid. Yeah, it's going to remove the pregnancy. What is the pregnancy? Well, she's pregnant. She has a baby. And the abortion will somehow surgically remove the baby. And is the baby alive after that? No. So abortion has to kill the baby.
This is actually interesting.
People die every day, bro.
Have y'all heard this lately? Because the word fetus is becoming more well known to the general public and harder, like it's being avoided by the abortion industry now, because more and more people are associating it too much with human. So now even fetus is not dehumanizing enough. So, and that's interesting, because we have here the Merriam-Webster definition of a fetus, which says a developing human from usually 2 months after conception to birth. And of course, the embryo is the developing human individual from the time of implantation to the end of the 8th week after conception. So I have heard more often lately, it's not a fetus, it's an embryo. Because now, we always hear it's not a baby, it's a fetus. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's not a fetus, it's an embryo.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be true depending on which stage we're talking about.
They're pushing embryo.
But it's like, now that's our new way of, well, embryo is not a human, or something like that.
And then, it's a fertilized egg.
Yeah.
The most unscientific term
right.
that there is. There's no such thing. This is...
But the definition, though, is a developing human from usually 2 months after conception to birth. Mm-hmm. Usually?
Usually.
What is that?
Just say 2 months.
That's Webster.
Yeah.
That's actually,
Yeah.
And then, that's pretty amazing. Our boy, Dr. Jerome Lejeune, said, the fact that after fertilization has taken place, a new human has come into being is no longer a matter of taste or opinion. It is plain experimental evidence. And he's considered the father of modern
Genetics.
French, right?
Yes.
Was he Catholic?
Yes.
Isn't he like going to be a saint or something? Or that's just
I think there's
certain
a push,
people?
I think there's a push for
Okay.
a case for that.
But you also don't need to be Jerome Lejeune, a PhD, the father of modern genetics. If you want to prove that the fetus is a living human being, you only really need to prove two things: that the fetus is living and that the fetus is a human being. And it's easy to prove that it's living because cellular division is taking place, growth, processing of nutrition. All these biological life processes do not take place. You never see a rock move on its own or a piece of metal that can metabolize calories. Does not happen. So it must be alive. Okay, that brings us to part two. Is it a human being? Well, what else could it be? You don't see. We've already established it's alive. A living creature cannot transform into another species.
It's got
Everything
human
is
parents.
there.
Yeah.
Unique human genome, 23 pairs of uniquely human chromosomes bearing uniquely human DNA. It's pretty cut and dried.
But even if they say it's medically needed, it's a medical procedure and all of that, you can, and we cover this in What to Say When too, you can say, okay, I understand that, but why do you want it to be rare? Why would we want it to be rare?
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody needs it, they need it. Like we're not running around. I mean, I know we want like open heart surgery to be rare, but nobody says that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
There's no rallying at the Capitol with make
Right.
open heart surgeries
Rare.
safe, legal, and rare.
safe, legal, and rare. It's just like it's a hip replacement. Like,
Yeah.
If you need it, you get it.
Yeah.
So there is that part. But you can risk now of them saying, I don't think it should be rare. I think there's too many people in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this section, the who cares section, because eventually you arrive where they just will acknowledge that it is a fetus, it is a baby, abortion kills a baby, but you can't force people to have kids. We just kind of talked about this. This is where our judgmentalism comes in, because once the baby is a baby or an abortion ends the life of a baby or a pregnancy, but they're acknowledging the kill part. It's the kid's gonna be a criminal. It will lead to like what the baby will be, because an unwanted baby cannot be successful in the United States of America. All successful people have come from wonderful parents. They've never overcome anything, and that's it. And so that's kind of their line of thinking, which of course we know is not true. And in fact, we celebrate the opposite. We love the underdog, and we love somebody who comes from nothing and then makes it, and those odds are against them, and their dad was in prison, and whatever. They started some company. So it's the actual opposite. But eventually they're going to tell you why abortion is good, because we don't need this person.
And all of this ignores the fact that we don't value children for what they do, but rather for what they are, for who they are. And it would be absurd to apply this standard at any other point in life. Like, oh, the 6-year-old that got in a car accident is never going to walk, not going to be useful, not going to become the next Beethoven or the next Einstein or win a Super Bowl quarterback. It's completely arbitrary to restrict killing to before birth.
Yeah. And we just don't act like this. Mm-hmm. We don't act like this. We're actually very caring people who want to have empathy for people, except when it comes to abortion. If you're in utero, we kind of determine what your value is, what you'll do, why you should be wanted or not wanted, and that's kind of it. And we just don't do that for our kids. This is why I think the pro-abortion folks get themselves in trouble when they say, You support those unborn babies, but you'll do nothing for the education system in Alabama. They have an abortion ban, but they have one of the worst education systems in Alabama. Well, if that's true, I don't know. We need to fix the education system in Alabama.
Right.
Right. Like, we're for that.
Yeah.
And also, somebody has to be last, right?
If you're not first,
You're last. I was high when I said that. You can be second, you can be third. Heck, you can be fifth. But it's so true. We came back to Talladega and Alabama's education system. But we want to fix that because it's for our kids.
But even if people there are people that don't want to fix that, it doesn't
Right.
therefore conclude, let's kill these babies.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Let's say there's evil Republicans smoking cigars in country clubs and they're like, I don't care about the kids.
Because it's going to be true of people who are pro-life, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, and if they're saying it's a divided issue between the two parties, and it's Republicans who don't want to fix the education system. Well, if that's true of any of those representatives, any of those legislatures, well, that's wrong. I mean, that still doesn't mean that they're wrong about the abortion issue.
Exactly. And it ties into if the government pays for every abortion or they don't pay for any. It's some people get more wound up about Planned Parenthood getting $700 million than they do about the actual abortion itself. And so both are bad, obviously, but...
So I think that some people that may be listening to this now are, you guys might be thinking, okay, y'all, I'm involved in 40 Days for Life. Like, this is basics. This is 101. I don't want to, do we need to really spend our time on this? However, it is good for us to, come back to this from time to time as we're going out into our communities, as we're talking to people who are on the fence or who consider themselves pro-choice, even if they don't like abortion. Because what we're seeing now is people, especially with these state amendments that we've seen pass, we're seeing that so many people voted for this because they're hearing all these myths that, I don't like I actually don't like abortion. They're thinking, I don't like abortion. I don't want to support that. But, these pro-life laws are actually putting... they actually want to put women in jail for miscarriages, and they are preventing women from getting necessary. I can't be for that. And so now they're like, I don't want to say I'm pro-life. And so they'd rather either not label themselves at all or label themselves pro-choice, because while I hate abortion, I don't like what these so-called pro-life laws are doing, or these pro-life laws supposedly are doing. So we have to continue to revisit these and answer these questions. But what I'm also seeing is, like, I'm sure many of you watch the man on the street type videos where the pro-lifer is going or some conservative person is going and interviewing somebody on the streets of New York or wherever, some busy city, and they're asking these questions: what is abortion? And what do you think about abortion? And why do you support it, or whatever? And a lot of people will start out, they'll support it, and then when you kind of get down to it, when they start talking about what abortion is, they're still a lot of times defending it in the end, but you can see their wheels are turning in their head, and they're not very comfortable or confident with defending it anymore. But this has been ingrained so much in our society that I can't just make a switch right here. I can't just say that I'm now pro-life because, you gave me something to think about. And I think that's good. I think
it's really good.
We got to keep doing that.
We saw that in the election.
Yeah.
Abortion was cited on the pro-life side more than any other election in history, and I don't think that's because of great pro-life talking points. I wish it was.
Yeah.
I think it was because of really bad pro-abortion talking points, and them just saying, what is an abortion is a close, relative to when should we restrict abortion. Those two questions are really good. And last fall, Kamala and a lot of people, running on the left were asked, when do you want to restrict abortion? And it was never. Mm-hmm. And you just lose people. That's their version of, gosh, I don't like abortion, but I think the pro-life laws are making women die in the street. I just don't want that. But when you're like, day of birth, what about medical care after a failed abortion? That you just lose everybody. And then we're so far past the need to be like, well, what is an abortion? Because everybody's like, okay, the baby's like 40 weeks or 39 weeks and you're going to do an abortion. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You can go at it the other angle too. Why not kill a 1-month-old baby after birth?
They
have no answer for that.
Yeah, they don't have an answer for that. And like, what's wrong with abortion at 40 weeks? If you need one, you need one. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what's wrong with you? You know,
the way I've often phrased is, so you believe abortion should be legal through, say, 24 weeks of pregnancy. Yes, that's correct. Could you tell me what happens at midnight on the 6th day of the 23rd week of pregnancy that suddenly you flip your position on abortion? Like, what happens in that moment?
You got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to draw the line somewhere. And this is where the 15-week ban is the same thing. So, okay, 14 weeks and 6 days, you know, and it's like, well, I got to just, we have to have a number. No, we don't.
Right.
We really don't. And this is where we've talked about the homosexual movement of they just didn't compromise. Mm-hmm. And it was like crazy. You know, Obama in 2008 was against gay marriage. And it's just like, you look up in 2015, it's the law of the land. And so, you know, that this is why I think we've had the death of viability, because viability doesn't matter. That usually was brought up by pro-abortion people. If the baby's viable, which, okay, let's say we require in the United States of America, listen, you little twerp, you got to live without your mom or we're done with you. This is the standard that we set for a 22-week-old baby. Maybe we'll say 20 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever we decide. But we can cut the cord. Go get an apartment and a job. I know you don't know how to walk or talk or barely breathe, but you're on your own, okay, because of viability. So we don't do that. Viability is like a made-up thing. You have to live without your mom? Who does that? What 3-year-old can live without their mom? Mm-hmm. So, you know, we lock women up in prison if they abandon their 3-year-old, you know, or drop them off in the woods and drive away. But you can just abandon the 22-week-old who's sitting there crying and, you know, off to the orphanage. That whole thing. But the problem with viability is you're now in this 22-week thing or 24 weeks. They've changed it. But they want abortion at 40 weeks. And for the pro-abortion definition of viability, there's no question, right, that the baby can be born and live. So on their own. But that's why I think we've actually seen, like, they killed their main argument with their newfound political love of abortion through all 9 months.
And I think it's really foursome. I think the answer you'll get most often about why not a month after birth is they'll say, well, because it's my body, my choice, and once the baby is delivered, it's no longer my body. But there's a real vulnerability.
You got to breastfeed.
Yeah.
You've got to use your body. If you don't breastfeed, you've got to prepare formula. You've got to change diapers.
Swaddle them, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is where it also gets kind of crazy because we talk about like, well, you're forcing birth, you're forcing pregnancy, we've seen the argument advanced by a federal judge saying that there's a right to abortion. Maybe it's not in the 14th Amendment like they used to think, but it's in the 13th Amendment, which prohibits slavery. Mm-hmm. By refusing to allow abortion, you are enslaving a woman by forcing her to gestate and to bear and to birth a child. And this is where we get into like, we're not... Like, I think I've cited the great philosopher Shaquille O'Neal before. Don't ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Don't ask stupid questions. And, like, you're going to say that the most intimate relationship in the human experience, the relationship between a mother and her unborn child, is slavery? We can reduce it to that. Come back when you got something serious to add to this conversation.
We do a deep dive on this and what to say when too, because that was a knee-jerk reaction when Roe was overturned, is women are now slaves and all of that. And so there's a quick so the freedom to abort frees women. Yes. Okay. So in 1972, did we consider women slaves in this country? And of course they're like, no. You know, and so abortion didn't free anybody. Not having abortion doesn't enslave you. It's just, you know, and we're Americans, man. If we can figure out a way to make our cause just like slavery, and we do it, but that's because it's the only other case that we have where the Supreme Court dehumanized a group of people. Certain people don't believe that Roe v. Wade dehumanized the unborn, but we do. And so the only other law, because that's what it did, the only other law that did was Dred Scott. And so it's not that it's an unappropriate analogy, or as my 7-year-old daughter says, unappropriate, not inappropriate.
Not inappropriate.
She says, Dad, you're inappropriate. So it's not that.
About what is she saying this?
Me yelling at the TV. And so
Inappropriate volume, Daddy.
It's not that it's unappropriate. It's that it's the only appropriate analogy.
Well, that's the irony. My body, my choice, my property, my choice, my property, my rights. I mean, we've already heard this before.
Well, Planned Parenthood, they need to have a conference, and they need to be like, shut up with the slave stuff. Like, get away from slavery.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not doing the whole property of another. Okay, because we need the unborn to be property of the mom.
Yeah.
In order to have abortion. So get out of the slave business. And so, but it's all of this is very, focused when you just continue to ask, like, get a description of the, of the abortion. But one thing you said that you made me think of is, this is not a mystery. We don't need John Paul II. I mean, This is now on the internet. National Geographic just films the whole thing. Like, just tell me during the National Geographic, from the moment of conception, when it is medically appropriate, what changes that we can end the life of this human being. And I don't, if it's moral to do that, that's fine. If maybe there are certain circumstances where we can kill somebody. Just give me the definition according to you, because it keeps changing. It used to be like, oh God, no, nothing after 22 weeks. That's terrible. And but now it's 40 weeks.
Well, you can never pin them down on answers to any of these questions. So they just bring up something new, and before you know it, you're debating the merits of the Crusades in the Middle Ages or the Catholic Church's response to Galileo's theories of heliocentrism.
What about Galileo?
Yeah, what about Galileo? What about the priest abuse scandal, man?
Yeah. No, it's so true. Which all that's good, right? Because now we're in the,
I'm sorry, we can talk about the Crusades tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tell me what happens at midnight on the 6th day of the 23rd week of pregnancy. I still haven't gotten an answer on that one.
I served Mass in high school one time, and the sermon was from an Irish priest, and it was the Roe v. Wade anniversary, so it was on abortion and all that. And the Irish have a very good gift of not acknowledging stuff and not even getting in the conversation. And so this guy ran up and he goes, "What about the Inquisitions?" Like, screamed it, like just totally inappropriate. And the Irish priest said, "Oh yes, the Inquisitions, they ended far too early." Just like for the like your sensational comment, I'm now gonna match with another sensational comment, and just like, if you want to come up and talk to me, that's fine. But you're just like screamed, "What about the Inquisitions?" There's like kids around, like in their like Sunday dress and all that, and I always get a kick out of that because it's just like, I'm not talking to you, so I'll provoke you. I always think that guy's telling that story right now.
Yeah.
And they want to go back to the Inquisitions. I heard it, verified. It's like, I think you ran into a priest that doesn't take himself or you seriously, and that's the end of the conversation. So, anyways, okay. Just to wrap up here. So, I think we covered all this. You get these quick little snippets. Pregnancy termination, but birth terminates a pregnancy. That's not an abortion. Reproductive freedom. Freedom to do what? A decision not to become a parent. It's weird, but she's already a parent after fertilization. Pregnancy interruption. This is my new favorite one, actually. We get every year, 6 months. This may replace forced birth, because I'm a big fan, as you know, of forced birth. Big forced birth guy. Pregnancy interruption, so you can resume the pregnancy.
It sounds like you're watching Netflix and you hit pause so you can go get some popcorn or something like that.
I was thinking back in the day, like when the CD was scratched,
Ooh.
And you kind of get it out and you fog it and this is my system, or the Nintendo, you blow on the Nintendo video game and then it
Or there was
resumes.
always a new way. Peanut butter will remove your scratches.
Yeah.
Toothpaste will remove the scratches.
My RBI baseball tournament was interrupted.
You had a tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, is it still ongoing? Can I enter?
No, this was like when I was 10. It ended.
Say la vie.
I took the Cardinals to the World Series and won.
Okay.
I'm not trying to brag or, but it was
No big deal.
the original. This is the original RBI baseball, where I think Alan Coleman, their leadoff, like he was like Lawrence Taylor from Tecmo Bowl. He ran like a 2.840, like in the game, like he could steal all the bases. This was an important part of defining pregnancy interruption. And then the good old classic, reproductive justice. This is a product of the 2020 riots, right? Because everything got justice attached to it.
It existed before then, but I think the spike went up on the timeline in 2020.
You've
What
already
is-
reproduced.
what is just about imposing the death penalty on an innocent person? Reproductive justice, I like that one. Once we're in reproductive justice world, that's when you could just kill your kids because they get on your nerves. You failed kindergarten. Reproductive justice, you're out.
As you know, I like to just attach the word justice to anything that I want.
Oh, I do.
We've talked about Doritos justice.
Yeah, because we have an issue with RFK. We're going to have to write a letter demanding Dorito justice.
Yeah.
You've got grape soda justice.
Morning
Grape soda justice.
cereal justice because
Cinnamon Toast Crunch
Cinnamon
justice.
Toast all
Yeah.
those, they're really bad for you. So
Here's the other thing of why they need to have the conference and be like, stop bringing up slavery. They don't need to bring up justice. That's a big human rights phrase. Like when you dehumanize, you can't use words that make people think of humanity. And justice is like human rights. That's the first thing that comes into that is an injustice against what? Against a person.
All of this makes me wonder, have you seen the movie Sliding Doors?
No.
Familiar with the concept? So it's basically charts this couple's life. Like in one case, the woman like makes the train, and in the other case, the doors slide shut before she gets on the train, and it charts out like the course that her life would have taken otherwise.
I love movies like that.
Yeah, it's good. I'd love the sliding door scenario of what if they left Leanna Wen as the president of Planned Parenthood. I'm not saying it would be going better for them. I'm not saying it would be going worse, but you're not getting you're not getting all the insane talking points because she was just like a technician, right? She was cold-blooded. She was calculated. She wasn't passionate. But yeah, we're going to have abortion. It's going to be the same as washing your hands. I'm just curious where things would have gone if she were still in charge.
They would have been better. And basically
Better for us or for the abortion industry?
better for Planned Parenthood
Okay.
because and by the way, she has proven to was the right person for that job because she was extremely successful when she left Planned Parenthood. She was a CNN panelist.
Mm-hmm.
And basically she got that gig because she was CEO for 6 months or whatever it was of Planned Parenthood. And she's on CNN talking about everything. Way more people know who Leanna Wen is now than they did when she was the CEO of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And Alexis McGill Johnson, I don't think a lot of people know who she is. She's only on these like random, MSNBC, interviews. She's not a good interview. I'm just saying this as it's not because I don't want her to be. I don't want her to be, but you know what I mean? People can watch her talk and it's just not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is why we were talking about trusting God the other day. This is a big divine intervention thing. As the good Baptists say, this is a God thing. But the timing of all of this, that was for producer John, because he's a Baptist. That's right. Don't say amen. Thank you. Maybe you should not talk. So, you have all of these things colliding and then the timing of Roe. And I think Cecile Richards, I know she passed away and she stepped down because she had brain cancer. But I see a world where if she's healthy and all in and, she could have probably done a lot with the overturning of Roe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'd see her every day on networks. She'd have her speeches done. She'd have her talking points. She'd be raising money. Remember going to their Twitter account, their website, Planned Parenthood's website, when Roe was overturned? It was like the action item was invite people to your homes and talk about why reproductive rights are important.
Yeah.
Yes.
What? Where's the
Yes.
petition?
Make
Where's
a
the
pro-choice playlist?
was that one of their calls?
Something along those lines, I think.
And of course, you immediately went to Spotify and followed their orders and made your. What is a pro-choice playlist?
I would imagine songs that promote reproductive justice.
What is that?
Probably Ariana Grande, if I had to guess.
Oh no, you
Nicki
can't start
Minaj.
naming stuff. We're wrapping up.
It's not George Strait. I
It
can
ain't
tell you
George
that.
Not
Strait.
George Strait.
That,
That's-
no. He is. All My Exes Live in Texas is a pro-life song, okay? Because he's just like picking up the pieces of his life, hanging his hat in Tennessee, and
All right. That's a wrap.
it is a wrap. So please rate, review, and share this podcast. And remember to ask folks, what is an abortion? And of course, we should have done more of it. Shameless book plugs. Buy What to Say When 1, Buy What to Say When 2. They're designed for things like this. You can go through different sections and read and with any particular question that you have. We also tell you what not to say in those, but we do give you specific things to say. And thank you for all the feedback. We've gotten great feedback on that. And we released the sequel. We sold a lot of the first one. So thank you to all of you who went back and got the first one and then came back to get the second one. So be sure to get those books. They're amazing. And you know what's phenomenal about those books? They are so full of wisdom, according to us. And this was pre-Steve's beard when we wrote those. And so it's just amazing. What if we wrote a third one with the beard? It'd be unbelievable. So please check out those books, rate, review, and share this podcast, and we will see you next time. God bless you.